I think Kanchanaburi is an important place for all Australians to visit. It's a place where Australian and Allied prisoners of war made enormous sacrifices and underwent unfathomable suffering to build a railway that should never have been possible to build. Now, to win the war, the Japanese knew they had to build a railway from Burma right across Thailand to the port of Bampong. If they could do this, they could get the resources from Burma across to help them with the war effort. It was a massive feat, 415 kilometres. The conditions must have been horrendous and the toll was enormous. The logistics of building this railway in the time frame that the Japanese had set for it was incredible. Literally hundreds of work camps sprung up along a line that would be cleared and carved into a railway. When the railway was up and running, it carted thousands of tonnes of goods, and its success was a threat to the Allies' effort to win the war. So, its destruction became a major focus for the Allies, and it was first bombed in February of 1945, and then later on in June, making the railway useless. Today, most of the original railway has been reclaimed by jungle, but the section from Non Pladuk to Nam Tok was reopened in 1957, and still serves the local community today. The train begins the journey in Bangkok, but I've jumped on at the bridge over the River Kwai, which undoubtedly is the most famous point, I'm sure. But they tell me our next destination, which is about an hour and a half down the train line, Tham, Krasae, is equally spectacular. Soaking up this spectacular landscape around the outside, I suppose it's all about the journey, not necessarily the final destination. The station has a scenic overlook with restaurants perched above the now peaceful Little River Kwai. Once the train has departed the station, you can actually walk along the bridge. Just be extremely careful, as you'll hardly have any room when the next train comes around the mountainside. The fact that you can actually walk these lines all these years after the British POWs actually engineered and built this part of the railway, to me is just incredible. One of the things that I find most remarkable is back in the 1880s, the British actually looked at building a line from Burma right across the other side of Thailand through this region, and they concluded that it just wasn't possible. It was an impossible engineering feat. And yet these POW engineers, they achieved it. And even more remarkable is the fact that the line is still being used today. The rugged limestone cliffs would have been a massive challenge to try and carve a train line into. But there's one natural feature that offered a reprieve for the POWs and the forced workers here. This natural cave would have provided a cool respite from the heat and humidity. It was used by nurses and doctors to treat the sick and dying back then, but today it's a most sacred place for Buddhists. With a golden Buddha built inside, visitors offer prayers of peace and happiness in this incredible natural wonder. Now, I'm not great with heights, but walking in the footsteps of the men who built this is humbling and meaningful and a little daunting. It is said that for every sleeper that was laid building this railway, that a man died in making that contribution. You know, it's hard to fathom the enormity of the sacrifice that these men made so close to our own home shores.